If you're struggling with thin hair and wished it looked thicker, well, you're in the right place, because today I've got 5 game-changing hairstyles that will instantly make your thin hair look thicker. I'm first gonna share the hairstyle, then I'm gonna share explanations of why and how this individual hairstyle will make your thin hair look thicker. And then I'm gonna share a pro tip so that you can get the thickest looking results from the style. You're also gonna wanna stick around and watch the whole video, because sprinkled in here throughout, I've also got a couple extra bonus pro tips, and I even have a bonus hairstyle for you. So there's a lot, stick around. And today we have my beautiful wife, Deanna, with us so that she can ask all the questions that I'll forget to answer that you're gonna wanna know the answers to, right?
That's right.
That's right, you're here to answer some questions.
I'm here to ask the questions. You're here to answer them. You're the expert.
There you go, good job, okay.
Let's see if I listen.
Okay, so the first hairstyle is long, one length, but with bangs. First of all, there's a couple things that's important to understand about this. We have to dictate the length here, so long is gonna be a little bit different to everybody. And I'm not basing this on what you think is long, I'm basing it on what your hair will handle. So depending on the amount of hair that you have, this might start getting thinner up here, it might start getting thinner up there, or you might be able to get your hair really long and before it starts to look thin like that. Wherever it starts to look thin, that's where I would cut the length to. So that then becomes your long hair, one length. At this point, it's going to look thicker simply because, one, you've taken those ends off, but also because you've cut a really blunt line in there. And anytime you add a really blunt line, it tends to make your overall hair look thicker. The important part of this though is bangs, because a lot of times where people, especially with thin hair, go really, really thin or start to look really thin is right in this area, right here on both sides especially, right? So if we can get that length up higher versus being all the way down here, it's gonna look denser. Not to mention, bangs are gonna do a really good job of accentuating certain things about your face shape, as well as just kind of give some interest to the overall cut.
My question is, if you're doing bangs, will you need to have the bangs start further back to create that thicker looking bang if your hair's fine?
Great question. Already jumping into my pro tip. Here's how you're gonna figure out what bangs are actually gonna fall forward like bangs. What you do is you take a comb like this, you put it on your head. Wherever that comb leaves the scalp, which on this mannequin head is right about in here, okay, that hair forward, all of this hair now is going to fall forward like a bang. The hair at that part will typically fall to the side or maybe a little bit to the front of the side, and then the hair behind it will fall behind it. So if you comb all of this hair forward and cut that like a bang, you're gonna have pieces back here once you move your head around that are gonna fall back and end up looking like really short layers. So what you do is you figure out where that spot is on your head, you take a little section from that to the recession lines, right? So here and there, those little recession points.
Like a triangular.
Like a triangular, exactly, right? So for instance, this is a terrible one, like this on hers, okay? And then you go, all right, comb that forward and say, is that gonna be thick enough of hair? Do I see enough bangs there that I actually wanna wear the style like this? If it's too thin, then you know, okay, you're not gonna get more bangs, that's what's gonna fall forward. It's okay to have some piecier bangs. You don't have to have super thick bangs. This still allows for some softness, some movement. This hair in front is still gonna look denser at this length than it is gonna look if it's all one length. So in that scenario, if you want long hair and you don't want layers, but you want some interest and you want it to look thicker, add some bangs to it, cut a really strong line on it, your one length, it's gonna look 10 times thicker than if you just let it be longer and don't have any bangs. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So style number 2 is kind of a medium length with specifically front layers. This is quite a bit longer. This is longer than I would say I'd want it. I'm just showing you this because it does a really good job of representing the front layers that I'm talking about and how they would be cut. Something like this, okay, if you want it a little bit shorter, but you want some layers in the front, something like this, there's some layering in the front, right? This is a little shorter version of a similar feel, some layering in the front, but everything else is basically one length. What you wanna do is you take this length, see how it starts to look thin right in there? Mm-hmm. It's gonna look thinner and thinner and thinner as it gets longer, right? Ideally, take those layers to where it's strongest. So you would take them as short as you could get them, probably even go up to here with these. So I'd cut all that stuff off to make them look stronger. See how like geometric that is? The stronger we can get that line in the front, the thicker and denser that's gonna look. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. So as a pro tip for this, the thing that you'd wanna do is create some bend in the front, but in this case, just some good bend. So you're gonna use a product, you're gonna wanna saturate your hair from roots to ends with that product, and then use a round brush or something to give it a little bit of bend so that you can get some movement and some texture in it. The bend, that means you're gonna get more volume out of it. And again, as you get more volume and movement, it's just gonna look like you've got 10 times more hair simply by taking a little bit of that length out of the front.
For someone like me that doesn't know how to use a blow dryer and a round brush, could we use a flat iron?
Great question. So no, I wouldn't, because irons have an incredible ability to make hair lay really smooth and soft. And typically when you lay it smooth, it's gonna have a tendency to look a little bit thinner. You would be better off using a round brush, or if you can't use a round brush and a blow dryer at once, just use a styling or a blow dryer brush. That would definitely be the option. We'll link some in the comments that we like, just so that you can find them easily, but that would be the direction I would head. Okay, quick side step. We're gonna do a little bonus tip here. If you want serious volume in your hair, you want it to make it look thicker, I'm gonna tell you something that you're probably not gonna wanna hear. You've gotta use some volumizing product. But the problem is, I understand you don't want it to weigh your hair down, but if it's not in there at all and you don't feel something in your hair, it just simply doesn't have the ability to get the volume. There's no foundation for it to create volume. And realistically, you need some sort of volume to make it look thicker and denser. Now, again, like I said before, I will link some volumizing products that I like that work really well. And if you haven't actually seen the video where I actually tested a bunch of different volumizing products, I'll throw that link in the description for you as well. But use a product, saturate your hair in it, make sure that you use enough of it, and then try it. And if you get a good one, I think you're gonna find that it won't weigh your hair down like you think it will, and you'll actually get a lot of volume, and your hair's gonna look a whole lot thicker in the process.
What I'm noticing so far is all the photos that you've been showing, everybody has thicker hair.
You sound like a subscriber. Yes, you're right. It is almost near impossible to find visuals online where I can show you that I'm allowed to use, because of copyright problems, that show you the exact haircut that I'm talking about on also thin, fine hair. So you're just gonna have to trust that that's why I'm explaining how these work and why they work. That doesn't change the logic behind what I'm explaining. Okay, style number 3 is shoulder-ish length hair with some layering. Kind of sounds like it's the opposite of what I've just told you so far. But follow me here. We're getting a little bit shorter in the length here, and because we're getting shorter in that length, we have a little bit more of ability to be able to open our hands up to adding some more layers and getting some more movement and texture. This is layers everywhere. So you're gonna get a lot more ability to create volume and shape once you take your hair into layering at this length. None of this is by accident. These are all very specific. I'm very aware that you might be thinking, hold on, I hate layers, because the second I layer my hair, there's no hair at the ends anymore to have any hair. I'm gonna get to that in just a second. And so now the product that you're using and the way you're approaching your styling process to get lift, your hair is at a length where it'll actually accept that, and then you'll get lift and volume from it. So then the kind of question becomes, how do we actually make sure that we don't layer this too much? Like, how do you stay away from overly layering it? This is gonna get a little bit nuanced, but follow me here, because this is a really important key. All you're gonna do, and you can actually do this at home. So we all have a recession line, right? So we have a recession right here. So mine is pretty obvious. It's right in here, okay? And then if you follow that line, you have an occipital bone. That's that bone right there. Naughty bone in the back of your head. So imagine that this looks like from here, and then her occipital bone, let's say it's right back here. Okay, and then we're gonna comb all this stuff down. So it's basically what you're gonna do. You're gonna take this, and you're just gonna put this up in a clip, or put it in a ponytail. Now, assuming that all of this hair is all one length, there's no layering down here, it's all one length. That's the amount of hair that you should have after we layer it. So if you look at the bottom and you go, that's just way too thin. I don't want my ends to look like this, or I don't want my ends, I would have to take my length up to here to make the ends look strong, and that's too short for me, or whatever that looks like. If that is okay, if you're looking to go, yeah, it looks thick enough, it's a little bit thinner, because it's gonna be a tiny bit thinner, but it still looks thick enough, then we know that, okay, you can layer the hair, and you're gonna be fine, because this isn't gonna get layered. What we're gonna do is we're only gonna layer this stuff up here. So this stuff ends up going shorter, okay, but the bottom part doesn't end up getting layered any more than you're already seeing. So you can actually pin your hair up on the top of your head and comb it down and say, can my hair actually handle those kinds of layers? If it looks thick enough, then you're golden, you can layer it. The thing that you wanna make sure that you explain to the stylist, this might sound crazy, actually tell you, comb it out, clip it up, and show them physically. Take a comb and say, hey, can I look at this? I've had this layered before and it just felt too thin. Can we leave all of that totally one length? I don't want any layers in this stuff down here, but I want some layers just in this top hair. Can we do that? And if they tell you no, they can't do it, I honestly, that would be a red flag to me, because it absolutely can be done. I've done it for 30 years on almost every client.
Run for the door!
Run for the door, yes. Oh, hey, by the way, if you're getting any sort of value from this content, why don't you go ahead and make sure that you hit that subscribe button. It is totally free. Oh, and if you really like it, go ahead and like it, or maybe even share this video with a friend. That would be a huge help. If you really want to help me, Share the video. Share with somebody.
And if you really want to help me, follow me on Instagram.
I'm not even gonna link her page. Okay, style number 4 is the chin length bob, specifically with nape layering or beveling in the nape.
That's cute.
Now, there's a few reasons that this will actually make your hair look a lot thicker. One of them is because anytime we can get that length close to the hairline, especially in the nape or on the sides, and cut a geometric strong line, it's gonna look stronger, which means it's gonna look thicker. The nape beveling is very specific. It's not one length to here. Can one length at this length look dense? Yes, but it doesn't have the ability to get fullness. Like if you look right here, see how on her hair, right in this area, it brings the eye up like this, right? Because this tapers in. Does that make sense? Okay. What that does is it makes it look like there's more fullness up here, because if that beveling wasn't right here, it would just come down like this.
It would look kind of triangular.
Yeah, so it'd look more like this versus like that. Now, in these scenarios, you have the line right here that's making it look a lot thicker. You have this beveling that's laying this stuff in right here, that's bringing the eye up this way, making it look like there's more volume up here. And all of this kind of works together to create not just a thicker and denser overall feel, but also a nice movement and a very flattering overall look. Do you see how that really brings the eye up to create the illusion that there's more volume up here, right? And that's the point of this. We're keeping your hair sleek, but at the same time, we're creating volume by removing volume out of other areas. And that just little bit of kind of optical illusion is gonna make your hair feel and look more dense. Make sense?
Cool, I like it.
One pro tip. Sometimes in some hair textures, it might start to flip out at the bottom when you're trying to dry it. It's like kind of unruly. One trick that you can do is actually, you already know, you blow dry circles in the back. So when you're drying your hair, you use your blow dryer and you actually just make little circles. And I don't know why it works, but I learned it like 15 years ago behind the chair. Somebody showed me that, some stylist showed me that, and it works. It's shocking how well that works. I actually talk all about it in this video where I teach you how to style bobs. I'll go ahead and link that in the description as well.
I do it, it works.
It totally does, right? Isn't it weird? It does not seem like it would work, but it does. Bonus tip number 2, anytime that you want to add more fullness to any of these shapes, except the one I'm about to share, wave actually goes a long way to making it feel thicker. If any of the ends are starting to look kind of thin, if you add wave to them, it kind of hides that a bit. You don't really notice that it's so thin. Okay, and style number 5 that will make your hair look thicker is a Bixie / Pixie. I hate the word Bixie. I hate it.
I want a Bixie, I think.
We'll get you into Bixie. I am really actually speaking more towards Pixie, if I'm honest on this. You go shorter, it's gonna look thicker. Let me help you understand why though. Imagine this is your hair, it's gonna split. Because we're taking it shorter, we have the ability to get more texture and movement. So now you've got these hairs and instead of doing this, they're doing this. And the minute we do this, now all of a sudden you don't see through those as much, and that makes it look thicker. If you're going thin at the scalp, like you see your scalp, not just thin at the ends, something like short like this is right up your alley. It's gonna make your hair look so much thicker. There's a couple other things that are happening with these kinds of shapes. If you look right in here about the ears, see how they're all cut up around the ear? Right? So they're a little bit stronger in here. They're stronger right here. When your hair gets longer, that's the hair that tends to look a little bit thinner. So that stuff, taking that really tight like that and strong, it's gonna make it look really, really, really dense. Then having this other hair that's a little bit longer, you can get away with a little bit more length with that because this stuff is creating a foundation that's making everything look strong. And because this is short and you can get it kind of messy or whatever, it doesn't really matter if it lays perfectly flat. It's gonna get all messy and it's gonna look thick even if it is thinner individual hairs. Does that make sense? One other pro tip on something like this, you wanna make sure that the length, especially in the length of the nape, that you go pretty short and that you wear it forward. So what I'm talking about is if you look at this photo right here, okay? So this area right here is gonna be pretty short to begin with, but then what people forget to do is when they're styling it, style the top and then just let it go. Do this one trick at the very end. You're just gonna put the product, any like wax or anything you're using in your hands, just work it through a little bit like this, and then go like this, and just pull this hair forward. It's exactly what you're seeing in this photo. See how all of her hair is doing this?
Yeah, it's not straight, it's going forward.
Yes, it's not at all doing this. Because it's doing this, right? If you kind of see that line, it's kind of doing this. So it's actually accentuating more of her jaw structure, right? Cheek structure, just because this hair is actually wrapping around like this, right? So it kind of does the same thing. As it's wrapping around this way, it's also bringing the eye up that way. I've got a video coming up where I'll show you this more tips on exactly how you style this. But yeah, it's a total game changer. We've gone through different length ranges, all of them. What could be next?
Shag. Did I
You
guess?
saw it. You
No,
saw
I
it.
swear to gosh, I didn't.
You had to have seen it.
I did not see
Where
it.
would you come up with shag?
Because that was the only hairstyle left.
What do you mean it's the only hairstyle left? A shag is actually a surprisingly good haircut for thin, fine hair. It's totally meant to be unstructured, and it's meant to look very thin and wispy and kind of like, almost like fairy dust. I don't know where it's coming up with.
Too.
But you know what I mean? Like, even on this, right? You can see that there's a lot of thinness down here at the bottom, right? There's a lot of like very short layers up here. They're way too short for the balance typically. It doesn't really fit within the standard norms of what we would expect from hair. See, the difference is though, whereas with thicker hair, and this is why you're probably saying, but they've got thick hair, thin hair, there's no way I could do this on thin, fine hair. Not true. You just do less of it to get that look. With thick, super thick hair or medium texture hair, you just have to do a lot more layering to get it to look thin. You're just closer to that avenue already, so just a little bit of layering down at the bottom is gonna yield you a very similar look. It really, in your case, thin, fine hair, it just means that you're basically cutting the layers on top too short and adding a little bit of layering at the bottom, just a little bit, and it ends up very much like this photo, which are beautiful cuts. And the pro tip here is one, this is gonna work really well if you have a little bit of texture in your hair, meaning a little bit of wave. They're really meant to be that. If your hair is very stick straight or very resistant to getting any sort of bend in it, these are gonna be a lot harder for you to manage, but you also have to be ready to wear them. If you don't wear these, they will definitely wear you, but they're just different. It goes to show you that you really can dress them up and make them look really cool, but you also can dress them down and make them super edgy. You know, you can really kind of play with them a little bit. I used to never really be a fan of shags because the same thing, but they're just like everything done wrong. If you've ever watched this channel, it's like every single thing I say, this is a mistake, don't do this. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, that looks great. If you like that, definitely go ahead and check out this video right there because there's gonna be a lot more of it there and we will see you over there.